There you go. There you go. Here you go. Arctic Military Force. Wow, that was 6 months ago. I'm surprised because that
world's
got
best
recommended.
Arctic
Okay, here's the video. If you guys want it, if I didn't post it before, you should definitely check this guy out and subscribe to him. And here's the video we're going to be checking out now. Right, we've gone from some of the hardcores to the hardcore, serious rock climber, professional level rock climber, and a bunch of Norwegian, like, super crusty special operations lerpers. Not LARPers. LARPers are dumb, but lerpers, long range recon patrols, lerps. Lerps hardcore, LARPs dumb. We're gonna check out Lil Xan. Just the name tells us this is gonna be a hoot.
Reality has hit Lil Xan now. You feel me? The money probably not coming in the same way.
Stat's trying to get 30 grand out of him to finish up the balance on the G-Wagon.
On the
and
G-Wagon.
he don't got 30 grand for it.
30 grand when he had who knows how much money at one
that's
point.
a reality
I would,
for a lot of
I will
artists,
cut
right?
my arm off if Lil Xan has $30,000.
It was
Wow, this is crazy. So, okay, Lil Xan, I think, is a rapper, like a flash in the pan rapper who probably had one hit song. What about LARPers in LERP? Asked Flight of Icarus. If you're in LERP, well, no, there's still LARPers in LERP. Because I guarantee it, they have like an armorer, they have a communication specialist, they have intelligence targeting cells, they have a lot of support staff. And those support staff probably go out to bars and are like, I'm in the LERP. And they don't correct the girls when they're like, wow, you do the mountain climbing? And they're like, yeah, sometimes, yeah. You know? And like, so yes, there are LARPers in LERP. I am certain of it. Again, which, here's the thing. If you're one of those dudes, you're in that unit because you're a badass, right? Like, they want you. And if they don't like you, they can reassign you. Or at least if it operates like American Joint Special Operations Command. So like if you're like, dude, I do communications for the LERP guys. It's a great job. I love it. I just, like, it's badass. Like, what? It's like me, right? Like I'm on, you know, I don't pretend to not be an MP, like, but I think, here's the thing, I'm proud of my service, right? Like, are there Billy badasses? Yeah, of course. And they're badasses, like the real ones, you know, but like, it's not a contest. And like, you should be proud of the service that you have. So anyway, point is, yeah, there's actually LARPers in LERP.
just 3.5 years prior that on the very same podcast, Lil Xan was sitting back and bragging about owning 3 different Los Angeles apartments.
I have the same one 10 floors up now.
Really?
Yep.
What? And don't you have another one down the street too?
He looks like a kid, man.
And another one on the same floor.
Why do you have 3 apartments?
One for my parents, one for me and Eli, my hacker, and then one for the hose.
The hose?
Despite once being in what seemed like an unlosable situation, it was obvious that over the long run, Lil Xan's failure was not only inevitable, but deserved, and it all began with what seemed to be a poor work ethic, dating all the way back to high school.
So I failed every class up until I dropped out freshman year. I just cannot.
Oh, dude. Well, he looks like he's high, man. He can't sit up.
Sit down for 7 hours a day.
Now, we shouldn't make the argument that poor grades in school automatically result in a poor work ethic over the long term. There are simply too many examples of mediocre people performing terribly in school before going on to achieve greatness in a different field. However, there's a bit of a difference between finishing school with bad grades and failing every single class before dropping out in your freshman year of high school, as was the case with Lil Xan, establishing what.
So, okay. So here's the thing that I think is worth talking about if you're creative. There is some evidence, and we've talked about this, that there's something about creativity, like really strong levels of creativity and art being an artist of some sort, and some types of mental illness, right? For example, I think it's like 25% of people who work as full-time creatives, painters, artists, musicians, 25% of them have a first-degree relative with bipolar disorder. And what that tends to say to us is that this can't be an accident, because the incidence of bipolar disorder in the general population is, I think, 2%. So something is is saying, hey, if you have this genetic predisposition to make music or art or paint, write, that there's something that also predisposes people who are genetically similar to you to have bipolar disorder at 12 times the rate of the general population. So when you look at these sort of things, I suspect, this part is my theorizing, that there's other mental illnesses that are not bipolar disorder that also share some of these traits. I think depression may be one. I think anxiety. I think something like ADHD. And truly, like, I get where that comes from, man. I hated going to lecture. Again, I've talked about this on other streams. I really thought that I was bad at math because the worst way to learn math, the absolute worst way, is to have someone talk to you about math. Like, imagine if you tried to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu by having 95% of the instruction or 90% of the instruction be lectures with slides. You'd be like, this is crazy. You'll never learn anything, right? Instead, it's like basically a third of your time is spent being lectured at. Maybe less. I'd say in actually a typical jiu-jitsu class, there's maybe 10 minutes of verbal instruction, followed by lots and lots of drilling, right? And I say that, and the way you teach different things is a science in and of itself called pedagogy, and the pedagogy of math in the U.S. schooling system is comically bad. Just comically bad. And it wasn't until I actually took an online like undergraduate course in like calculus based economics and business calculus and some other like pretty advanced stuff where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But I realized that if I just forced myself to do all the assignments and all the problems in the book, and if I couldn't figure it out, I just flipped back to the chapter in the book and was like, what's the chapter in the book want me to do? And almost always it would walk you through it. And if you just took your time and put in the effort and just weren't afraid to go back into the book and look it up, it was fine. But the key is that I was doing it, I was discovering it in my way, and I was having to, if there's a concept that hung me up, we didn't just move on, right? I wasn't like, well, I looked in the back of the book once and I didn't get it, so I just gave up. I was just like, no, maybe this 5 problems will take me all night. Maybe it'll take me 2 hours, but I'll just flip back and forth again and again until I get the answer I want. And once I realized the learn by doing method, I was just like, oh my God, I just hated high school. Like even though I did really well, I was like, I just hated high school's manner of teaching. I'm not actually terrible at math.
You might call something like a predisposed naturally poor work ethic.
And I even argue that the school system, it's like, there's almost no other way to teach 30 children, like you just can't do it. Again, jiu-jitsu, I'm using that as an example, but like adults are very different, especially when you have adults who choose to be there, who take time away from their families, etc., to like go to these adult martial arts classes and learn something, right? So much easier, totally different than teaching children who are forced to be there, who don't really want to be there. Or who want to do other things. It's not a great system, and I don't know what an alternative would be though.
They could never get Xan to do the shit that he actually had to do for his career. Like, I remember talking to Stat about it, and he was constantly frustrated.
There are going to be numerous examples throughout this video of Lil Xan often being unable to do the work whenever it was required. We already discussed him dropping out of school in his freshman year, but it continued into the beginning of his music career when he failed to show up to countless meetings with other big rappers who had given him an opportunity.
He kept missing the meetings.
When at less than 2,000 followers, he'd be noticed by an individual named DJ2 who wanted to take Lil Xan to meet a potential manager by the name of Stat Quo, who was an old school sober rapper and manager who had worked with Eminem in the past.
Yeah, okay. God damn. This is a great illustration of how this is, but let's let this play a little bit. I think I know the point I'm gonna make about this.
If it wasn't for this guy, I would literally never have been discovered, never met Stackwell. We wouldn't be doing the No Jumper Day in the Life.
However, as mentioned just prior, despite this insanely big opportunity while still at such a small follower count, Lil Xan kept missing the meetings either as a result of being disorganized or because he thought the meetings were too good to be true.
It's LA.
You can't believe everybody.
It's LA.
It was a time when SoundCloud rappers were popping up left, right, and center to the point that it was becoming a meme. Little P.
I mean, here's okay, guys. Let's. If you look at a lot, and I'm not gonna say all, right? But as successful people are as successful people, and that's a subjective term. People that make windfall levels of money, high level athletes, this like rapper, an artist or actress that gets discovered, someone making it big on a platform like YouTube, even somebody who like founds a startup, right? Anything that's like where you make, instead of making your money over the course of 20 years, you do most of your earning in a small handful of years. Those people all have commonalities, right? They have a luck. There's definitely a luck component, right? Anybody that tells you that if I was born in the ghetto of Chicago, I would still work hard and make something of myself. And those people can get fucked, right? We know the science is like irrefutably clear that you need to get lucky a little bit to be successful. That doesn't mean to say that it's all luck. It's absolutely not. But you got to acknowledge that luck plays a factor. And for someone like this Lil Xan, right? He sounds like someone whose life is kind of going nowhere. He's fallen off he's literally on course to just be a nobody, right? Face tattoos, failing out of school, making a SoundCloud rapper. Like it's a meme that SoundCloud rappers are a joke. And sure, he's a solid SoundCloud rapper. Got it. But the key step is, and he makes good music, right? Sure. But there's a lot of people that make good music. Look at how many great YouTube channels have no followers, right? And make great content and get nothing. Again, some of my favorite content was outdoor camping content that reached maybe 1,000 views a video. And so, right, guys work hard. You know, endurance room, bushcraft, and survival. There's a channel of a guy who is like living it out there. And, 2,000 views a video, right? Seems like a totally cool guy. And so I'm saying this because like getting blown up like that is luck. You got to work hard, but like then to go from working hard to getting seen and to growing is luck. Just like a startup. There's a gazillion startups with good ideas. How many startups come up with the good ideas and then some other startup executes them? And there's an extent to like how many companies wanted to do Fiverr or rideshare or Etsy or Uber, right? There was probably a zillion at the same time. A couple won. They won in part because they worked harder, had a better mechanism, had more confidence, better market share. But some of it's just dumb luck. Some of it's just that they found the right investor. They talked to the right investor. But the key is when that moment of luck happened, when that person from Uber was in the elevator with, whoever, Peter Thiel or something, they were there. They knew their business. They were passionate about it. They made it happen. They exploited that luck into something greater, right? And that's the key. Exactly. So Jacob Ling says some of the initial luck is networking, right? And it's like a fire. A spark isn't a fire. And the spark is luck. But if you don't have dry kindling, the bird's nest, right? If you don't have all the components lined up already, the spark is just going to spark and vanish. And that was your shot. But if you have the components lined up, then you get that spark. But it's still not a fire. You still have to work hard to ignite it, right? So anyway, that's my philosophy on some of these guys, is that there's definitely a moment where they realize the amount of luck that they have, But it takes skill and work and savvy to set conditions to become lucky and to exploit that luck when it happens.
Peep, Lil Sky's Lil Pump with Gucci Gang.
Is Lil Pump actually an artist? Is he a rapper that is truly worth taking seriously? The border between being a musician and being a meme?
So, when a song was released to Lyrical Lemonade, titled Betrayed, sung by an artist with a name as stupid as Lil Xanax, people had to click to see if it was a meme or not.
People clicked on it because they were like, we gotta hear what a Lil Xan sounds like, you know what I mean? And then they were actually like pleasantly surprised.
The song was actually pretty decent, creating a perfect storm exploiting its popularity.
I've always said that it was just like the perfect combination of the name, the thumbnail, the title, the actual song itself.
It blows my mind, bro.
And shortly thereafter, it would become the most viewed video on all of Cole Bennett's Lyrical Lemonade.
Just how quickly you went from a total nobody to somebody that everybody knew.
It's crazy.
It was so shocking, even for me being like really close to it.
However, countless comments along the lines of, if he kept making music like this, he wouldn't be a joke, hint that after this project, he would be considered as somewhat of a one-hit wonder, as 6 months later he released his long-anticipated first studio album, which would be met with many negative reviews from
Damn, he looks like he's like 6 years old.
individuals like Anthony Fantano,
We're not even at the halfway point of the year yet, and this is one of the worst things I've heard all year.
whilst failing to achieve a professional review higher than 2 out of 5 stars, or
Right. This is what we talk about. You know, we like here he had this super moment and he sort of failed to exploit it. And the question is it mediocre because he didn't have the right team around him? Did he not put in the effort? Again, if he's someone who misses prominent meetings, it's hard to believe that he's going to be out there putting together lyrics, working so hard on making his music great, right? And it's a little hard. People talk about getting caught up in the fame, but it's like you've got to finish exploiting. You've got to build that spark into a bonfire, you know? And he had this video blow up and he's like, okay, the Tinder's lit. The Tinder is burning, but that's not the same thing as a bonfire, you know?
more than 5 out of 10. The reasoning for the poor release would be discussed by Adam22 at a later date, and it was what you might call unsurprising.
Like, I remember when Lil Xan's album came out, right? And I remember having a conversation with Stat and being like, what do you think of the album? Because it was pretty obvious that the album was bad. Xan put in like no work for the album. And I remember having that conversation with him. And if it was up to Stat, Xan would have been sitting in the studio. Yeah,
exactly. And this is how it is. You can't exploit it. It's like in the military. They talk about exploitation, right? Exploitation of an enemy means that you are, yes, you achieve a breakthrough. And sometimes the breakthrough like this is accidental, right? Sometimes it's because the enemy does something stupid. They screw up their orders. They put a battalion in the wrong place and you punch through. But that's not an advantage unless you exploit it. You have to turn the enemy. You have to push into their back lines, right? You have to exploit these advantages when conditions are good.
Recording every night
and they don't need to be perfect. That's the thing. You know, you don't have to have conditions that are perfect. You just have to have conditions that are good.
He was just doing drugs and having random ass girls come over every night.
The other issue might have been that after the insane success of his single Betrayed, Lil Xan might have been lured into a false sense of security about his future and talent as an artist. He might have felt as though he could now relax a little bit and take his foot off the gas, resulting in one incredible banger to lead the album.
Sorry, I'm laughing at these numbers. Damn.
Followed by 15 other mediocre songs.
Wow.
This is the self-described reason behind why T-Pain's rap career eventually failed, and could certainly have been the same story with Lil Xan.
Everybody's like, it's downhill from here. The analogy was, if you pedal up the hill, you can coast afterwards.
Right, okay.
You can just stop working. You have to keep working. What they don't tell you is that you coast, totally fine. There's another hill. So you gotta keep going.
From Lil Xan's perspective, he would state,
and you know, so to continue that analogy, Telrun points out, if your opponent is making mistakes, don't stop them. I think it's like, don't interrupt your opponent in the middle of a mistake. And that's a little true for sure. But I think, you know, one of the sayings in the military that T-Pain sort of talks about is the point of defense is to transition to the offense. And that's a really good mentality of like this resting. Like, dude, sometimes, you grind really hard on an album. The album goes live, you tour, and you're like, damn, I need to get ready to transition back to my creative side, right? And this is why it's a trope, right? Second albums are all about the like price of fame. And it's because artists are transitioning from this like initial album success where they never took their foot off the gas. And then finally at the end of their tour, right? So like 2 years of being just on the gas, then they get to just release the brakes a little bit, and they get to like process they get to process what has just happened over the past 2 years, the way their lives have completely blown up. And then the act of that processing, if you're a good artist, drives your next album, right? And I think this is true of everything. This is true of any business, right? You climb your hill, but it's so much longer than you think it is. It's not one hit wonder, right? It's an ongoing process, right? It's 2, 3, 4 years of work, depending on the business or the operation. And then finally you get to just dial a little bit back, but you have to transition to the next period of hard work. You've got to use that time where you're not on the gas to strengthen your mind, strengthen yourself like spiritually, and then you get to push hard again to achieve even greater heights, right?
The poor performance of the album wasn't his fault, it was instead the fault of his management.
I dropped like a mixtape that got way more like positive reviews than my album, and it should have been my album because my first album wasn't put together by me. It was put together by my management, and you know, I love my management, but I mean they f***ed my first album completely up to the point where I didn't even pick the track listing or like what songs were going on. It was so rushed.
However, this just revealed another one of Lil Xan's flaws, a lack of personal responsibility. Now, we don't know whose fault it was that the first album flopped, but in reality, it's usually a mix of both parties and is rarely the fault of one person or another.
There's absolutely no good lyrics on his debut album. Dude, you can't pawn that stuff off onto somebody else. The lyrics are on you, dude. Like, yeah, somebody else can come in, your producers can do the beat, right? You bring in some guests, but damn.
However, Lil Xan is the artist. If you release something publicly under your name and it sucks, you unfortunately have to own the failure. Plus, most of the time, even if it wasn't your fault, people like you way more when you just say, yeah, it was my fault, because it displays humility and the desire to improve. Anyway, despite his first album being a bit of a flop, Lil Xan was still able to maintain his popularity after the initial blow up, because when you look past the dopey personality, minor victim complex, and actually watch him on one of these podcasts, he's a surprisingly likable dude. He's not an arrogant douchebag like, for example, Lil Pump, and generally speaking, he's honest and transparent about the good and bad in his life.
We talk about anything, like if you ask me anything, I'll be like, yeah. Like,
his stupid stories about having multiple threesomes in the space of a week make him entertaining to watch and listen to, making him somewhat of a celebrity as opposed to a rapper.
All the interviews with Lil Xan always like they get as much as damn near some of my music videos. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's pretty funny, just to be like, and it's, I mean, again, you look at the Kardashians. This is their trajectory. Right? Kim was embroiled in a controversy, right? And instead of pivoting into a conventional career as an actress or whatever, she was like, I'm gonna be famous for being famous, right? And she pivoted into reality TV and these branded products. But like, again, the work is there, right? That nobody, like, yeah, Kim Kardashian's like cringy shit about nobody wants to work hard. Like, you're famous. We know you work hard. Nobody's doubting that. You just don't shit on other people for being like, no one, like, other people are also working hard, Kim. They just don't make Kim money.
Right now, at this moment in my career, I'm more of a celebrity than a rapper. You feel me? Because I can't leave the crib without 10 kids coming up to me right as I leave the door.
However, by the same token, the amount of stories that he has, which are to some extent based on poor life decisions, openly displays his lifestyle filled with a never-ending cycle of short-term pleasure. And this is the problem with so many of these SoundCloud rappers. The branding by default is the glorification of drugs, bringing hoes over to the crib every night, taking out loans to buy cars, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, expensive jewelry. They become so famous and successful while living this kind of.
Dude, this is so funny because Lil Xan is the shortest dude there. I'm like, it's so weird.
Life that they actually think that they're on the right path, when in reality, real long-term sustainable success is, at least in part, determined by your ability to avoid these temptations.
Right, and this is the hard part, man. This is the reality that a lot of people don't understand about celebrity, is that a lot of this shit is fake. These guys are businessmen. I mean, I'll tell you, every YouTuber I've talked to is a businessman first, is a business person first. And they understand that. Every successful one, right? Because again, it's about exploiting it's exploiting that spark. And a lot of people can't do it. A lot of people don't do it, but you can, but you have to think about it like a business. And yeah, you create that exaggerated version of the real you, but you also have to be this deeply savvy business person or you won't last. You'll end up like this dude.
The other problem with living this kind of lifestyle is that it's usually accompanied by a multitude of poor financial decisions. In the beginning, Lil Xan seemed convinced that this wasn't who he was.
Do you go crazy hard with expensive clothes and jewelry and ridiculous bullshit, or do you hold on to it?
That's a loaded question, by the way. If you really want to get the answer, what's the nicest thing you've bought recently?
What's going on in your lives right now?
I'm not into the I'm in the grills and MCM. Like I have a chain, but it's not so expensive. It's expensive, not expensive. I'm not into the whole jewelry.
However, only 6 months later, in a video posted to YouTube once again by No Jumper, this seemed to have changed, as Lil Xan's out-of-control spending habits and lack of respect for valuable items was put on full display. He'd start by mentioning that he would take any sponsorships as he was low on cash at the time.
Any bag cream soda, you want to sponsor me? Do it. I will take any. Here's
the other problem. It's called brand risk. Brands don't want this association. They don't want to be associated with you. If you're a dirtbag person, brands aren't here for you, man.
Endorsements, I'm broke.
However, he'd then go on to talk about and reenact himself smashing his TV.
I got so mad, I literally walked up in this the other day. I took this skateboard and I was like, Then I'm like, I'm mad.
Laugh about ruining a $1,200 hoodie after leaving it on the floor.
So everything's on the floor. Expensive hoodies, $1,200 on the drain.
And then go on to purchase 2 copies of the game Destiny with the goal of showing the store some love.
What? This is the stupidest stuff.
Honestly, 2 copies of Destiny. Right, dude, let's play some else,
Now you could probably make the argument.
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. $1,200 hoodie, dude, get fucked.
That this was just Lil Xan spending big whilst the camera was in his face. However, there was plenty of evidence to suggest that off camera,
yeah, this is definitely a target. You don't need to show Target some love, man.
He was also quite unwise with his money. For example, in another No Jumper podcast, he'd talk about how he'd take.
I love how No Jumper here. Okay, so here's the other thing, man. Lil Xan is clearly making No Jumper cash money, right? He keeps coming on the podcast. He just had a day in the life of Lil Xan. Do you know what that podcast probably earned? Let's see. I'm gonna help you guys ballpark it. All right, we're just gonna keep ourselves a little honest here. Let's see. Boom. We're gonna figure out what Lil Xan made No Jumper. No Jumper, Lil Xan. Okay, No Jumper. Damn, Lil Xan on No Jumper is absolutely blown up. No Jumper 3 years ago, Lil Xan 1.4 mil, 4.2 mil, 800,000. Lil Xan Exposed 6.3 mil. The Lil Xan Interview 500K, 1.6 mil. Lil Xan Tour. What's the house? I'll show you guys. Look at this. No Jumper has basically built their. I mean, No Jumper's good, and actually their host. My wife and I were watching a No Jumper podcast with Spencer Cornelia, and we were like, damn, this dude with all his face tattoos is actually really insightful. He has a lot of self-awareness, but probably because he's our age, he's been around a bunch. But just look at how many views Lil Xan has earned them, right? And yeah, he's made them probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to put this in a way that isn't too revealing. Think about how your favorite YouTubers and look at the ones who are able to actually do YouTube full time and aren't mega creators. Look at how many views they get per video. So then ask yourself, Lil Xan, we just looked just on No Jumper. Lil Xan earned him 10 million views. That's like 6 months of a good channel. That's like a year of work for like a smaller channel. And it's like, should I say that he should have gotten compensated for these podcasts? Like, yeah, he probably should have. Just something that says, hey man, your sponsorship money on No Jumper, all yours. Affiliate sales, all yours. I just need half the YouTube ad revenue because I know I came on a few times and people love it. I just need to raise some cash. They'd probably do it, you know?
Like 7 of.
So anyway, the point is, it's like, is he being taken advantage of? Like a little bit. I mean, not a lot. Again, I'm sure no one else asked to get paid to come on these podcasts, right? That's this big. It's just not done, right? It's just, you help each other out. But if you're someone like Lil Xan, who's broke and like you're a broke 19-year-old, like maybe you look out for him a little bit, you know? And yeah, I'm just seeing it. Yeah. And somebody else points out, it's like, this is a kid who has zero guidance, who's just getting squeezed by this industry, who doesn't even understand how to make money, right? He's like, Cream Soda, sponsor me. I'm like, dude, where's your agent? And why isn't there a Lil Xan podcast, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Does Lil Xan bring other people on, get some other rando co-host? Like there's so many options out there that if he got better advice, he would be in a different situation, but then he'd be a different person and maybe he wouldn't be as interesting.
Of his friends to Universal Studios and pay for everyone's entry just to buy one drink before leaving.
I'll take all my homies. I'll spend $700 to take 7 of my friends in there.
Just to get butterbeer?
Just to get butterbeer, and we did. And I don't film it or nothing.
In addition to this, Lil Xan would take out a loan to purchase a
Right, that's stupid. He's like, I don't film it or nothing. Well, why not, dude? You spend $700, you film it. You don't even have to film it. You have to be like, get a film crew and be like, hey guys, or get a production company. I know they're out there. Be like, hey, listen, 50-50 split of the revenue. I'm Lil Xan. I'm a big celebrity. People pay millions to watch my bullshit because they hate me. I want you guys to film my antics and just cut it into videos and upload it and thumbnails and all of it. Just do it all. And like, just send me a check of the AdSense. That's it. That's all there is to it.
Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. The price of...
How do you think these influencers do it, right? You think these kids are like, some kids are diehard, right? They're doing their own editing. They're making their own uploads. They're owning their production. But a lot of these people that are already famous, dude, they got a crew. They have a company that's a one-stop shop. Be like, you want to be a YouTuber? Great. 6 hours, sit down. We'll do everything you want. Great thumbnail, great title, clippy editing. We'll do it all.
To which starting at around $130,000 US.
I'm about to get a G-Wagon.
Nice.
My favorite car, dream car.
Now, if we ignore the fact that Lil Xan would go on to key his own car whilst...
Dream car is the dumbest thing. I hate the dream car concept. The dream car is a marketing ploy, truly, in the bottom of my heart, right? So a G-Wagon, you could buy like... Back when he bought this G-Wagon for $130, you could buy four brand new Toyota RAV4s, right? And like, you got to ask yourself, what's the point? What does that G-Wagon do? And you might be like, hey, I actually need the G-Wagon because I'm such a big celebrity that I can't be seen driving a RAV4. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, look at you. You're 5'0". You're a white kid with face tattoos. Like, you can't be seen driving a RAV. Yeah. A dream car is transferring wealth from the stupid to the savvy. That's all it is. Just like your dream college. There's no dream college. They all give you the exact same degree at the end of it. And unless it says Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, nobody cares.
Angry at a later date.
I just did this to my car. Scratched it, keyed it up. I just bought it. Keyed all the way.
Yeah, actually, I feel sad. He's got some issues and he hates himself.
The levels of stupidity for this purchase go pretty deep. Taking out a loan to buy a car, moron. Taking out a loan to buy a luxury car just to flex on social media, double moron. Taking out a loan to buy a luxury car just to flex on social media whilst working in a creative...
Who are these guys? Like, okay, well, there's No Jumper, so he's here. Maybe it's some No Jumpers production crew.
Profession where you could fall off at any moment, triple moron.
Yo, welcome to Darth Vader. This is my new whip.
She's like a 9 out of 10. She ain't like a 10, but she's pretty bad. It's my first car.
However, the stupidity
Dude, he looks so high.
of his G-Wagon purchase was compounded even further when he would host a public event that would ultimately result in an extra $100,000 fine. On the 21st of December 2017, just before he'd buy the car, Lil Xan would make a tweet which read as follows: "If you live in the Inland Empire/LA area and want to meet me tonight, pull up to 100 to 110 North 5th Street, Redlands, CA 92373, United States at 7:30.
That is so stupid.
Now, it's hard to call Xan an idiot for this one. It was still early in his career and the tweet was made only 4 hours prior to the meeting time. He probably expected just a couple of people to show up for photos and autographs, considering the location was also on the very outskirts of LA. Well, as you might guess, this isn't what happened. Around 2,000 people showed up, cars and streets were damaged, and ultimately the police would have to send in the helicopter unit before Lil Xan was arrested for
Jesus, look at all those idiots with their phones. Who cares that you have this? Who cares that you have your fucking phone out?
his own safety.
I gave like a 4-hour notice. I was heading to my hometown, so I tweeted a location, and then I just expected like 50 people to show up. That's just how I am. I got there, and this video's on YouTube. It's like 2,000 people showed up. What?
But I got fined because a lot of damages to cars and streets.
Really? Yeah, nice.
And the helicopters came out, and it's like 10 grand every helicopter. It was
Damn, that sucks, dude. That's so stupid. You gotta have a club, you know?
like Project X with the
It was a 100K bill.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Another 100K.
Lil Xan would go on to state that the event postponed his purchase of the G-Wagon.
Do you feel like you learned your lesson about that?
My manager said that it postponed my me getting a G-Wagon. So I was lost.
Oh man, maybe the manager is the only person with sense in all this. Which I mean, I imagine if you're a producer and you see somebody as flaky and shitty as Lil Xan, you're gonna be like, hey man, I'm gonna get you a manager. And this manager is going to get you right.
Could also be interpreted as, over the long run, he was now $100,000 further from owning the car outright.
They sent him a bill for 100 racks. And then I remember having a conversation with him after that. He's like, damn, bro, like, no, it's going to take me so much longer to pay this G-Wagon off.
Another rapper who owned one of these cars was Mac Miller, who happened to be Lil Xan's biggest inspiration in the beginning.
Who's like your biggest inspiration in terms of rapping?
Mac Miller, yeah.
Mac Miller, he's sick, right?
Yeah, like he's like a
Trying to make him remember Mac Miller. Mac Miller's dead, dude. Yo, I wouldn't want to manage this kid if my life depended on it, right?
big inspiration. Like,
however, when Mac would unfortunately die only 9 months later, this also seemed to have an effect on Lil Xan's desire to make music.
I'd be like legit crying like in my crib, like this ain't true, bro. Like Mac did not overdose. Mac's still alive. Mac's still here. I just saw Mac 2 weeks ago. When your hero dies, I don't want to make music no more. Like he was like the reason I made music.
In this same interview,
he really loves self-sabotage. It's really weird.
Lil Xan would also talk extensively about his
and maybe some people just like don't self-sabotage in the same way, but it's really incredible to watch him do it so targeted. It's like he destroys his TV, he destroys his G-Wagon, and it's like because he's mad, but he's mad at like himself.
Desire to quit music and simply become a public figure.
So that's why I'm not doing music. Like after I finished my contract with Columbia, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I'm more of a celebrity than a rapper at this point, so that's why I'm quitting rapping.
And at the end of the day, if he's not enjoying music, the tracks that he does put out won't have the required level of effort in order to compete with other artists who are giving it their all. Lil Xan's attempt to leave music and rather become a celebrity / public figure didn't really work either. After an explosive year on Instagram in 2018, his growth would slow dramatically.
Oh my God, January 2019, he gained 0 followers. 0 in July. He lost followers in July 2020. Damn, maybe he's just like not posting. And I say this as someone who doesn't really post on Instagram.
And has been in continual decline for the last 25 months.
Dude, multiple months with losing followers. That's crazy.
Leading to an Instagram live stream in December 2021, in which Lil Xan would show that all of his poor decisions from the past were clearly coming back to haunt him.
The industry just doesn't care. They just want you to pump out hit records, and when you're useless to them, just leave you in the dirt. You know.
In this video, Lil Xan would blame his sober, business-minded manager Stat Quo for fueling his drug addiction after he'd supplied Lil Xan with drugs while on tour so he could go out and perform.
And my manager was supplying me with the drugs. He knew all my plugs, so if I couldn't perform because I was withdrawing back then, because yes, I used to be a drug addict.
He definitely still is.
No, he would call, make calls, send $5,000 out here, $5,000 out here, just to ship the drugs.
I hate that. I mean, this sort of bothers me because he's like, I was withdrawing and I couldn't perform. And like, dude, bro, you could have just gone to rehab. Yeah.
Drugs to wherever we're at in the world.
This was just another example of Lil Xan's victim complex and lack of personal responsibility.
So what's he do? He decides, oh, I'm going to go on my Instagram story. I'm going to blame my drug addiction on Stat Quo. It's completely disingenuous. He needed to rely on his manager who doesn't even do drugs to get him drugs. Does this make sense to anybody? No. At a certain point, you just have to accept that like your problems are your own and that you can't just run around playing the victim.
After many accused Lil Xan of snitching on his manager, despite he being the one with the drug addiction, Lil Xan would respond by stating that you can't snitch if you're not a gang member.
Oh, you're a snitch now, bro. He didn't make you do that. All this stuff. Like, bro, how am I a
Look at this live chat. They're like, when are you going to get on the podcast?
Did I go to court and rat on my gang? I don't have a gang. You can't snitch if you're not a gang member, bro. Miss me with that. I'm trying to help other artists in particularly my similar situation.
In the Instagram live stream, Lil Xan...
It's so disingenuous. It's like, dude, no one wants to be you. Why would you take advice from someone who's like failing so hard? You know? Yeah, I'm also curious about all the Russian in his feed. That's kind of weird.
Would also reveal that his manager had taken the G-Wagon from him, as Lil Xan still owed $30,000 on it, which Lil Xan would state was unreasonable, as he had paid for the majority of it.
Also, he took my car away too, that I paid the majority of the money, and now he wants $30,000 of the remaining money to pay it off, which I paid literally. It's all my money in the car, and he won't give it to me.
Without $30,000 to take full ownership of his G-Wagon, a declining follower count across each of his social media platforms, and no new music in over 7 months, it seems like this could possibly be the end for Lil Xan's career.
Oh man, yeah, I'd say this guy is Jesus. This is like this is what happens, man. It's like it's hard. It's hard. And you know, I almost feel bad for him because but like he had this management that sounds like they're trying to do their absolute best. I mean, why should he have a G-Wagon? He destroyed it. He destroyed tens of thousands of dollars of someone who's broke. It's like, why would you even subject yourself to this? Again, you're just like, where's his parents? He doesn't need a little bit of direction, man. He needs a lot of direction. He's just someone who needs a high level of structure and supervision. And some people thrive in that environment, right? Some people just like, some people just thrive in that environment, and some people don't. Anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for me.
I killed alone, want to free for champions. I can't believe it's falling.